If you were following along with me in the very first lesson in this chapter, we were applying special effects to bitmap images, and there were tons of effects to choose from. Well, what if you've got a vector image and you'd like to use some of those bitmap effects on your vector image? Sorry, but you can't. Unless you take that vector image and convert it to a bitmap. That's what we're going to do in this lesson. We'll take a vector image, convert it to a bitmap, and then try some of those bitmap effects. So we're still working with the same file we've been using in the last couple of lessons, our menu photos file here. If you were following along with me in the previous lesson, you're on page 2 of our menu. We're ready to go. If you skip to this lesson and you've got the exercise files, you need to get caught up, you can go to the lesson 9 folder, open up menuphotos3.cdr, go to page 2, and you'll have exactly what I have here. So we're going to manipulate this vector image in behind the word menu here, our sphere. So that's a neat effect there. It's almost three-dimensional, but if I wanted to apply one of those bitmap effects to this, I couldn't. That is, unless I convert it. So let's zoom into it first of all. I'm going to click my zoom tool. You can press F2. We'll zoom into this menu text with the sphere in behind it. Let's go to our pick tool and make sure we click on the sphere itself. Now with that selected, if I go up to my bitmaps menu and I go down to all of these effects you see at the bottom, notice that as I hover over them, none of them are available to me. So what we need to do is go to the top of this menu first and convert the vector image to a bitmap. When we click this, we see the dialog box for converting to bitmap. So one of the things we'll need to select is the resolution. And the resolution is measured in dots per inch. Now, your selection will all depend on the output. In other words, if you're going to be posting this to the web, you'll choose a low resolution. If you're going to be printing it out professionally, you'll choose a high resolution for the best quality possible. What's kind of cool is CorelDRAW keeps track of the file size. That's just the image that's selected. Currently, you can see with my selections, I'm at 486 kilobytes. But I've got 150 DPI selected using an RGB color mode. You may see some other options here, but let's go through them. I'm going to click the drop down for resolution. I can go as high as 300 if I was printing professionally. And I might go all the way down to 72 if I was just going to simply be posting this on the web. Let's go to the very highest and watch our file size change. You can see mine went up to 1.9 megabytes. That's almost 2 megabytes just for the sphere itself. If I go down to about 200, that saves me some space. You can see I'm down under a megabyte now at 862. All right, let's choose a color mode. We've got different color modes. Black and white is 1 bit. 16 colors is 4 bit. As we go down the list, the higher our file size. Let's go down to CMYK color, 32-bit. You can see now I'm over a megabyte. If I change this back to RGB, 24-bit, you can see I'm back down under a megabyte. All right, under options, we've also got the ability to affect our file size by whether or not we use anti-aliasing and a transparent background. Now, you may recall when we talked about the differences between vector and bitmap graphics, bitmap graphics are rectangular in shape because they're made up of pixels, little squares. So as I look at my selected object here, it looks round, but actually if you look at the handles, they do go around the outside in a rectangular shape. So this space here in the corners of my sphere will actually be included in the bitmap. The question is, do I want to see white here, or do I want to be able to see through this area like I do right now with my vector? So transparent background should be selected for this particular vector graphic because it's not a rectangle. I want to keep these invisible areas invisible. Anti-aliasing is going to keep my edges as smooth as possible. Now if I turn this off by deselecting the checkbox, it's going to affect my file size a little bit, but I'm going to see jagged edges around the outside. I want to keep that as smooth as possible, so I'm going to keep it selected. And all I have to do now, if I've got everything selected the way I want, I click OK to convert this vector into a bitmap. And there we go. Now on your screens, you'll probably notice that it is a little bit more jagged around the edges, and the quality of the image probably went down a little bit. That's the disadvantage to converting to a bitmap. But the advantages are we can go up to our bitmaps menu now with our sphere still selected, go down to our effects, and start applying these effects. Notice they're available to us now. So for example, if I wanted to, I might go down to Art Strokes here, go over to the right, and Impressionist. For this particular menu, this might come in handy here and look just the way I want. So we've seen some of these effects earlier. Clicking Preview allows us to see the default settings applied to our bitmap, and you can see the effect. I'm going to switch to dabs though, and I'm going to bring the dab size up. The coloration, I'm going to bring that up as well to about 32, and I can adjust the brightness. Now I don't see any preview here, but clicking the preview button will show me what I've selected so far. Clicking the lock allows me to make changes and see instant previews with preview locked in. So I'm going to adjust the brightness down a little bit here, maybe down a little bit further. I'm going to go down to 25. That's cool. The coloration, I'm going to try a higher value up around 50. I like that. And the dab size, I'm going to make it even bigger. I'm going to go up to 15. That looks perfect. All I have to do now is click OK to lock in that change. I'll deselect. Shift F4 zooms me out to see the end result. And that's totally different than what it looked like before I converted it to a bitmap and applied the effect. So there's your advantages to converting vector graphics into bitmap images. You've got all those effects you can now apply. Of course, the disadvantage, you will see a change in quality. Vector graphics are smoother, they're sharper, and that's because they're made up of lines and curves and mathematical calculations that will always keep those lines smooth. Whereas a bitmap image is made up of pixels, so you will see pixelation, especially when you zoom in. But by converting to a bitmap, we can apply those effects. So experiment with other vector graphics, converting them to bitmaps, and then experiment even more with the effects you can apply.